Hey, everybody, this is Chris
and Cathy
from PetAbility Podcast. We wanted to take a minute to thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate every listener and are grateful for this platform.
Please help us share our vision by subscribing to PetAbility Podcast through your favorite streaming app. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at PetAbility Podcast and share our content on social media.
You can also support the show by making a donation. Simply go to our website at petabilitypodcast.buzzsprout.com and click on the heart symbol at the top of the page. Thanks for listening.
We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to PetAbility. I'm your host, Cathy Simons.
And I'm your host, Chris Cranston. Our podcast provides interviews and information to help your pets live their best lives.
Hey, Chris, how are you today?
I am excellent, Cathy. I've had a couple cups of coffee and I'm a little, I think I kind of have the giggles today. So I'll try to get through this podcast as best I can. Okay.
All right. All right. I have a good topic for you today, Chris.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about harnesses.
Oh, I love talking about harnesses.
And slings. Harnesses and slings.
Yes.
I do too. I just love anytime I can help an owner help their pet. I'm all about it.
And I was driving home today and I glanced over and there was this, I would say, senior, very large German Shepherd. And he was kind of roached and hunched and his rear end was low and he was out there with his older owner. And I was like, oh, I just want to get out of my car and help them to give him some support in the rear because he'd be so much more comfortable.
Right.
But it's a big step. It's a big step for people to.
It is. And well, the good news is there's so many good products on the market now. There's just so many really good slings and harnesses out there. Shall we jump right in with what we know about slings and harnesses?
Yes. And this, as you said, there are many products out there and they've kind of grown up with us, I think, because back in the day, we were really scrambling to try to find things to help our pets in need. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Back in the day, I would have a lot of owners that would come in and invent their own products because there really wasn't a lot on the market and they were pretty, innovative actually with their products, but there's so many out there now, and all of them have different levels for different needs of dogs, which is exciting. So the first one that for me comes to mind is the ginger lead. Are you familiar with the ginger lead?
I am familiar with the ginger lead.
I like the ginger lead. I like that it has I like that it connects to the collar too to make it easy for navigation, right? So sometimes I see clients come in and they're using a towel or a sheet to help their dogs in the rear end. And all I can think of is they're going to get pulled down to the ground. They're going to get pulled into the street, pulled into the ground. So I like the ginger lead because it makes for easier navigation. So it's just going to help this dog's, it just goes underneath the abdomen and it gives that extra rear end support for the client, but it also attaches to the collar so we can navigate a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that that's one feature that folks should definitely shop for if they're needing the rear end support but they're at the rear end of the dog. It's like, how do you steer them?
How do you steer it? It's like being in the back of the fire engine and you're trying to it is just going all over the place, all wonky, but I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you were saying before, like, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so I do think that a lot of these products did come from the original, like you said, they're coming in with a sheet or a towel or something like that. That's hard to hang on to. I mean, it's a lot of bulk and, it slips out of your hand, then you're in trouble, Dog falls, you're trying to pick up the sheet and get it back under them, they're taken off, like you said, in the street, and it's just a dangerous situation. So I think that any of these products that actually attach, if you will, or can be affixed, snugged into the pet and stay in place are the way to go. And, there are a lot of them out there. So what else do you like?
I wanted to say for the ginger lead, for me, I actually find this particularly helpful just as a little addition. I find it particularly helpful when I just have patients who are recovering from high-density surgery. So this just allows me to give them that little extra that they need, particularly, going in and out of the house, getting in and out of the car. But there are patients who need a little bit more support. And for that, I like the rough wear dog harness, because it goes around the middle of the body as well. So it gives them that little extra that they need. Have you used the rough wear?
I have indeed.
I
And
really like them.
it's kind of cool because like with the rough wear and some other products out there, they have a variety of harnesses to choose from that can meet your dog's particular needs. So I was actually doing a little research for this podcast, and I saw that they have like the high and light, which when dogs are just starting to get a little bit weak or unsteady, just starting with like a front harness sometimes is enough to help them, again, navigate the stairs. You hang on to that front end harness and can assist them up or slow them down going down the steps or in and out of the car, those higher impact types of daily activities. But this company really started, I think they're out of Colorado, and it's for very active dogs that are up in the mountains and traversing streams and rappelling. And so there's a whole gamut. So like I was saying before, the high and light, and then they have, which is very low profile, but then going to a full chest body type of harness, which extends a little bit further toward their rear, not just at the shoulders, but further back under their chest, and has some strapping under their belly too. So you're getting more of the body supported in this vest type of harness.
It's interesting because I never would have thought, because I have pugs, and so I never would have thought that there are people out there rappelling with their dogs, but there are. And it's a whole sport, right? My pugs, no, they would do it. But and because of that, they're made very durable. Like the rough also has a double back harness where you could do the front and the back for the rappelling. And I actually have a couple of clients who will use the double back for their disabled dog as well. And I have one client who uses it just because she likes to have it in case there's she's like, well, I'm going to use it in case there's an emergency. I live on the second floor. If I need to get my dog out, then I'm going to do this. And I was like, this is the harness for this because it's made very, very durable and very well. So
right.
I'm a fan of this product.
And the double back, for our listeners, what that means, as far as my understanding, is that instead of the typical plastic clip, which again, they're all, what's the word I'm looking for? Measures of quality in those, some you pull on and they just come disconnected right away. Any harness you look at should lock in there pretty darn tight with that plastic clip. But the double back, you actually put the webbing through the metal clip, correct? And it doubles back on itself and it doesn't slip at all. So yes, you could literally, lift your dog and hang him out the window, and in case of emergency, like you were saying, with
don't do that on just in general, but yes, in case of emergency. And it's made very well. And I find actually that I will use this a lot for some of my senior patients, because just giving them that little extra around the middle for support, it helps me as well, and just giving them a little bit of stability when they're walking, because I got that handle right, sort of right in the middle of the back. So I'll actually use this quite a bit for patients who are senior as well.
The one drawback that I've noticed, and I don't think they've changed their design, is that you do have to fish one of their front legs through part of the harness.
Yeah.
It just buckles on one side.
Right.
I'm not as familiar with the double back, so maybe that's different. I've only had a couple of clients that use that. But, so those dogs with elbow arthritis or that have balance issues, or maybe even the owners are not able to bend over and support their dog and get their leg through at the same time. I think it's the right front that generally has to go through, and then you've put it up and over the dog and clip it in. So that is a drawback if your dog has some balance issues, like I was saying, or isn't comfortable bending their front limb. You can get around it. You can certainly put the harness on the floor and then bring it up and over. But it just takes a little bit more work. So something to consider.
Yeah, and sometimes with those dogs that have balance issues, if you just lift one leg for them, they could go over. So you really got to consider that. You consider that. My other one that I think of course, is one of my most favorite harnesses, the Help 'em Up harness by I believe they are made by Blue Dog Harness.
Also out of Colorado.
Harry and Lindsay Zimmerman made this again out of necessity for their dog Blue. So it's a really nicely made harness, and I use this a lot in therapy because it's not only good for helping the dog, but I think it gives the owner better body mechanics as well. Chris, you could probably speak to that better than I can about the owner's body mechanics, and how comfortable it is for them to use.
Well, absolutely. And I think that over the years, as I keep saying, we have all tried to invent something like this, and then they got it.
They got it right.
They got it right.
Yeah, they got it.
Because it has a front portion and a rear portion, and it's adjustable, highly adjustable, and stays in place and keeps everything where it should be. And as we talked about with our wheelchair podcast, the dogs can go to the bathroom in it, even though it's very supportive in the rear and such. But yes, to your point about body mechanics, I was always trying to have something that would extend up and allow me to maintain my posture, or my pet owner to maintain their posture. The longer the distance is between your pet and you, the less control you have. So sometimes you do need to kind of, lean over a little bit, but generally you want to, be able to be beside your dog and to have that your arm and your body and your center of gravity really grounded and in that strongest position. And with any dog that has any sort of size, in terms of height, you can definitely do that. And then by attaching the leash appropriately, you can steer and support your smaller, lighter dogs that are closer to the ground, and again maintain your body mechanics. So
and not get hurt. Yeah.
Because it has a handle right over the chest area and a handle right over the rump. And I can't say enough about this harness.
That makes it so much easier for clients to get, especially like ascending and descending stairs or getting in and out of the car. Did you know that they actually have a device for the Help 'em Up harness that helps for patients that have amputations? So one of the challenges for our patients who have amputations is those harnesses kind of roll or slip around because they don't have that front leg to anchor to. They actually have a strap that's very easy. I've used it several times. That straps just very easily to the vest and then to the front part of the vest, and it keeps it from rotating. So dogs that have amputations can use this as well.
I have not been privy to that specialty accessory, if you will. So is it just for the front limb amputee, or is there one for the rear as well?
You know what? I don't know that they have one for the rear. I believe this is for a front limb.
Maybe it's not an issue in the rear.
Yeah, and you can that one goes over the pretty much the middle of between the two legs, and in that case it would probably just be the one leg in the back. But this one goes for the front, because I've had a lot of trouble with these dogs that have amputations and using that harness, because it slides around in the front, and then that I'm going to call it rotation device, very simple strap that keeps it in place. So for some of my patients that have four limb amputations, and they have to have a harness if they're big, or they really should have a harness if they're big like that. So
all that weight's on that remaining front leg. And
right.
For those of you out there that don't know, a normal dog has 60% of their weight on the front and 40% on the back, so they're already front loaded. Now you take all that 60% that's usually divided 30-30, and it's 60% of that dog's body weight on their front leg.
Front leg. So the Help 'em Up harness is great for these dogs that have four limb amputations. But you know what else I like to do? Because it's here's what else I like to do, Chris. Can't wait. I'll use it in the treadmill. When I take these dogs in the treadmill, it gives me something to hold on to as well. It helps me to stabilize the patient in the treadmill as well. So it's washable. Take it off when I'm done. I throw it in the washing machine. We dry it up, put it back on again. So for my perspective as a rehab technician, it's really helpful for me as well. To give me that added little support that maybe I need or the dog needs, especially when we're on the treadmill, especially if they're a little frightened. I can also give them that little okay, we're all right, I got you. You can feel that stability. So I like it for that as well. I'll use it for quite a bit of stuff in therapy, because it gives me so much more options for doing so many more things, because I have so much more control. Yep. And I will tell you that I have used it for a cat, and it worked beautifully.
Wow.
I had this cat. Oh, it's a wonderful cat. I'll say that about all my patients. So I'm going, oh, it's wonderful. Because I do. I love them all.
Yep.
Very significant surgery. Doug cat had surgery on his brain and was having quite a bit of difficulty recovering. He couldn't get himself up. He couldn't get himself to the litter box, and he couldn't get himself to the food and water. Couldn't groom, and he was having trouble getting getting his life back. And until I called Carrie and Lindsay had helped him up harness, and I said, do you think this will work for the cat? And they said, yeah, absolutely, I think it will. Now, this was really pivotal in this cat's rehab here, because this is where everything changed for him. As soon as I got that harness on and I could control him and stabilize him and stand him up, he was able to, at least initially, I could hold his harness and he would lean himself up against the wall and he would walk, along the wall. But that's the first time the cat had walked since surgery, after I got him on that harness. So we could get him up, we could stabilize him. So my goals for him, they weren't, I don't need this cat to be able to run, a marathon. I need to be able to get to the litter box, get in and out, get his food, and be able to groom himself, and get to a sunning spot, right? So I'm not looking for a lot. I'm just looking for him to be able to get up and have some independent movement. It was really quite a changing point for him. He did significantly better after we were able to get him up and stabilized.
That doesn't surprise me. I've had so many owners say that it was a life-changing experience, not only for their pet, but for them.
Right.
So again, the ease of which they can get their large dog in and out of the house. Again, we keep saying we're out here in New England. There are stairs and steps everywhere. Nothing is built on one level. Yeah, exactly. So anything that you can put on your pet that helps you to be able to get them around safely is not only safer for them, but you as well. So the Help 'em Up harness is definitely one of my favorites because it's so adjustable, and in the sense that you can just use the front part, and if the pet's condition worsens or with aging they need more assist in the rear, then you can add on the rear piece to that. So it's kind of like a system, or vice versa. Maybe the dog has had cruciate surgery, having a lot of trouble getting around, needs that rear piece, and then doing better. So you can start removing that rear piece and just give them some balance assistance, more control with the front. I really find it to be quite versatile. Love the Help 'em Up. And everybody says, help me up, don't they? It really is Help 'em Up. If you look at it phonetically, it is Help 'em Up.
Help 'em up.
Yeah, exactly.
I would agree. This and the rough wear is probably my most favorite and my most go-to harness. Chris, do you have any other harnesses that you like?
As a matter of fact, I do. I found that there was a need oftentimes for an anti-pull harness, a specialized harness to control pulling, especially post-surgery and things like that, when you're trying to keep your dog's activities restricted so that they can heal and not compromise the repair or the surgery that had just been done. So, imagine those young, active dogs that are normally out zooming around, and all of a sudden they tear their cruciate and they can't do that for several weeks. So I did sell a couple at my clinic that I liked and have used, but there are many others that are out there. But yeah, it's like they'd see the crack, in the door, that daylight, and bam, they just want to pull because they were so hungry to move, regardless if it was good for them or not, right? We have to be their voice of reason. Yeah. So the thing I think that makes all anti-pull harnesses unique is they typically have an attachment that's at the front, at their chest. And so there are many out there. Again, I tended to use the Sensible or Sensation harness by Soft Touch, or the Easy Walk harness. I found that those were quite effective. But there's the Sporn and the Freedom harness. My clients really like the Freedom harness.
I like the Freedom harness too.
Yeah. But they all attach in the front. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key. So your dog wants to pull forward, and there's that tension that then kind of turns them and steers them sideways, and it kind of breaks that mentality. And I know, like for the Soft Touch harnesses, the Sensi and Sensation, that it's kind of like a horse and their reins. So it's a very simple concept, but it'll pull them right or left across their shoulder, just like you can imagine, like with a bridle and a horse's reins. So that's how they work. And in fact, I don't know if you know this about me. I was invited to consult on a Harvard case study for the Harvard Business School.
I did not know that.
Yes. And
do tell.
I will. And so the concept was that they said that there are no cute harnesses for bigger dogs. They wanted something a little bit more stylish and that mimicked some of the things of the smaller dogs. And, you know, again, you go into the pet store, the large is like for a dog that is 30 pounds.
Right.
You know, and so it's hard to get a really nice looking harness for a large or giant breed dog. So anyway, one of the things that I said is if they're a large or giant breed dog and you want to control them, definitely put a hook and attachment place in the front. And so they had both. They had one on the back over the shoulders, and then they had one in the front, and the owner could choose, you know, where they wanted to attach it. And we talked about other features too. Again, the adjustability, the strength of the buckles. It had a pocket in it where you could actually put poop bags, cell phone,
snacks,
an ice pack, or snacks. Always got to have, and for the dog, right, Kathy?
Yep, of course.
Yeah. And but you could put an ice pack in it or a warm pack depending on the season, and you know, so it would give it a little warmth. That, you know, anyway.
I like that. I like that idea. I like that idea. Let me ask you a question though about the no pulls. Like I actually will use them quite a bit too in our therapy practice, because same thing. I see the most common thing we see probably in rehab is these dogs who have torn their CCLs, and then they feel better and they want to go bananas because they've been restricted in their activity. And so I like the Sensible, I like the Freedom. I've used the Wonder Walker myself. But what about dogs that have had like shoulder, OA of the shoulder or restriction of the shoulder? Do you feel like that you could use those for dogs that have problems with their shoulder too? Does it restrict their movement in any way when they're using that particular thing, that particular no-pull harness or a no-pull harness? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll throw that back at you because I'm kind of curious what you think. I do, you know, as with anything, when I'm recommending something, prescribing something, I consider the entire dog and what's going on with them.
Right.
But one of my biggest pet peeves is that these harnesses are not fitted properly. And I think that if they're fitted properly and you have the right harness for your dog, then that issue becomes moot. So speaking of that, one of my pet peeves is these harnesses that when the leash is on, attached to it, right? You're higher, taller than the dog. So generally you're pulling that up above their shoulders. So it shouldn't be that much of a problem. Again, if it's fitted properly, just that tension on the leash will relieve that potential restriction. But how many times have I seen a dog running around in the park, owner's got a big old chuck it type thing and they're winging this ball, or the dog's running around with other dogs
with their no-pull harness on.
With their no-pull harness on, and it's drooping down like to their elbows. I mean, do you think that that's going to restrict their movement? Yes, indeed. And even if they don't have a problem now, you keep doing that through their whole life, they're going to have shoulder, neck, elbow problems down the road, because that's not how it's meant to be used.
That's a good point. So if you decide to use these no-pull harnesses, you really got to read the instructions and make sure that they've fitted properly and that you're using them properly as well. So that was a really good point, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah. And you walk your dog to the park, you may need it for everyone's safety and control, but then just take it off at that point.
Yeah.
So it's a no-pull harness. You use it for walking only, and obedience kinds of activities, not just free range stuff.
Or when sometimes I'll use them have people use them when they're training their dog to heel or
absolutely
training their dog to, so I think it becomes a good tool for that as well, but no running.
no because then they need a lot more range of motion. Right. Yeah. So would you agree? Because I said that I was going to throw that question back to you. And
it's funny because I had a feeling I knew where you were going when you said this was your pet peeve, because I could see it in my head that these dogs are out running with their no-pull harnesses and they're sagging and drooping and it's just not used appropriately. So if it's sized appropriately and for walking and you're using it as per instruction, then I think it's not problematic. I'm a fan of the Freedom harness, so I would have no problem with that. Did you know? I don't want to move on to another. I don't want to move on. I was going to move on to another topic, but I didn't. You still have more?
I have pet peeve number 2.
Oh, well, do tell. Yes, I'd love to hear.
So the Easy Walk harness is very popular.
Yes.
And I have gotten into maybe tiffs as I've approached people who tiffs may be a little strong, but they look at me funny?
Mm.
As I've approached complete strangers and said, you have that on upside down, meaning the dog's harness. So the differently colored band is the one that goes underneath their chest.
Right.
And everybody says, well, I got it adjusted. It doesn't matter. It works the same way.
No.
But I don't think so. I think they made it that way for a specific reason so that you can adjust it properly. And then beyond it being upside down, like sometimes the cinching mechanism, which normally in the front, is now on the top of their shoulders. And so there's no way it can be functioning as it was designed to function.
As it was designed, yeah.
So not only fitted properly, but it's actually put on appropriately as it should be. So that's pet peeve number 2. Okay, now you can move on. Now I've aired all my grievances.
Thank you. We'll take them into consideration. Thank you. But I actually wholeheartedly agree with you. But I was excited to ask you if you have ever used with harnesses the anti-knuckling device. Have you used the anti-knuckling device with your harnesses? Are you aware of the anti-knuckling device?
Are you talking about like the Bico?
The one that's the cord. It goes from the foot. It goes around the toes of the dog on the back and then attaches to the harness.
I've not seen one that goes around the toes, but I've seen one that it's like a cuff that goes around the ankle area that was out of Europe years ago. And so I thought that particular one was pricey. It was custom, and I wanted one for the clinic that I could use with many dogs. So you know what I've done? I've used rubber bands.
TheraBands.
Rubber bands for little dogs, like the little doxies. Again, temporary, if it's a means to an end, supervised, a rehabilitation kind of exercise. You wouldn't want to leave them unattended. But yes, definitely devices to bring their foot forward, keep their toes up, and prevent them from walking on the top of their foot, as you said, knuckling.
I think you're right. I think this is, well, I'm looking it up just now. Barks Buddy, is that what you called it?
No, I call it a Bico. I'm sure somebody else has.
Why wasn't I listening to that? A Bico. This one is called the Canine Mobility Anti-Knuckling Device.
Okay.
And it's just like what you said. It's almost like, it's not the TheraBand, but it's just similar to the thought of the TheraBand. It's an elastic cord that attaches to the harness, and then the other part attaches to the foot. And
I've got to write that down.
Yeah,
I like it. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I was just so excited. Yeah, say it again.
Canine Mobility Anti-Knuckling Device. And I've used it a couple of times actually for dogs that have or dogs that are degenerative myelopathy, maybe some of my patients that have intervertebral disc disease, degenerative disc disease. I always tell people though, if they're going to use this, because it does wrap between, the 2 weight-bearing toes in the back, always check to make sure there's no rubbing. Don't leave this dog, don't leave this on, just do it, maybe when you're going out for that pee break or that little walk, but always check for rubbing in there. But it actually is a fairly effective tool for
So is it custom, or do you buy like small, medium, large, or how does that work?
I do not believe it's custom. I think you get them small, medium, and large. It's like a bungee cord.
I like that. I'm gonna look that one up.
Look that up, Chris. Write that one down. Okay.
Got it. And that does bring me to a point that I wanted to mention to folks too is, whatever system you use, in terms of harnesses or slings, there's just some considerations. We've talked about the adjustability, making sure that it's the right harness for your dog, that it comes in many sizes, and, that you've got the appropriate size. Can it be returned if it's not the right one? Because I've had so many people buy things online thinking they're getting the right thing. So there are knockoffs of all of these products.
Right.
And I can think of a knockoff for the Help 'em Up in particular, that clients, they're like, well, I found it for, half the price, because it is pricey, because it's a good product. So
it's a good harness.
Yeah. In this case, it is worth its price, but, and then they get it and I'm like, no, that's not it. And, it has like the loops around the back legs, and it's not as adjustable, and the seams, are chafing the dog. And if you get a good quality product, the dog will move in it. If it's a knockoff that's not comfortable, then they tend to get that like, oh God, this feels weird, kind of thing. So
Yep. And the thing about the Help 'em Up harness too is that Carrie and Lindsay are always really good with the customer service. So they're always responsive to customers and so forth. So I would say, that's definitely one of my That's one of my favorites. I can't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I'm sure we've all, and it's still out there as far as I know, like for the rear end support specifically, we're talking about like slings and things. One of the things that I try to stay away from, unless it's just a little bit of a balance issue and you're giving light support, then something around the midsection, the belly is okay, but generally you want to support the skeleton again. Right. So the front harness goes under the sternum, and the rear sling or rear harness or hip lift or whatever you want to call it should be supporting the pelvis, and that's what the Help 'em Up does a really good job of. Yeah. What I was alluding to earlier was the walkabout. Remember the walkabout? It's like a neoprene pair of pants. Yeah, and it comes sized, and you fish your dog's back legs through the holes in this neoprene. It velcros up over their rump, and then you have handles to hang on to. So, that's nice as well. But I think we all suffered from the issue of, you drop the handle and it's on the dog's rear end, and it just tends to wiggle off. They scoot around, and then it's come down over their knees or whatever, and you have to kind of pull their pants back up. And so that could be a problem, where if it's a rear piece that's connected to the front,
doesn't slide,
stays right where it should be, and right under that pelvis. So
yeah, and I always worry about things cutting into dogs too, like chafing or rubbing, and so I'm going to be cautious of that as well. Some of the products actually that come from under the belly are pretty nice because they come with the sheepskin, and it's washable and it's but some of them not as good.
Yeah. Good, so. And some of those under the belly around the midriff also have buckles or Velcro that it will stay on. So if that handle drops, out of your hand, or you use it to get your dog out, but then they're maybe not so comfortable having that support when they're actually trying to do their business. So you need to let it go. But then as soon as they're done, you want to grab it and give them that support again. Right. And you don't want to have to put something on all over. But any good product for the rear should allow your dog to go to the bathroom in it. They make special male pieces. The Help 'em Up does, but other slings too that have a little cutout for the penis, so that the males can urinate in it, and so good to go there.
It's important because the thing about, one of the biggest things about the harness is to get our dogs out to be able to go to the bathroom, and some of our patients can't sustain that position. So some of them can't sustain the position to have a full bowel movement. So it needs to be able to have the ability to support them, if they need that as well. But these boys, and I actually didn't know this until I started doing rehab, but some male dogs have their penises are more forward and some are more back. And I didn't realize that until I started working with these harnesses. So I think it's brilliant that the Help 'em Up harness made sure that they accommodated for that for the dogs, because if these dogs get occluded or squished, they're going to be uncomfortable, right? And also they may get urine on their harness. And if they get urine on their harness, it could sit on them. So I think it was a brilliant move on their part to make sure that they accommodated whatever position your dog's penis is in, they can accommodate for it to make sure that they're comfortable. But it really is a big deal, because it's part of getting the dog out and going to the bathroom. And if he's squished and occluded, he can't go. It's uncomfortable. He's not comfortable in the harness. So it's really important. That is a really important point.
Yes. And I think there's two things regarding that, even with the best designed product, make sure it's washable. Yeah. So, mild detergent, hang dry, and all of these products that we've talked about definitely are. And like we said, they're well made, and they'll hold up in the laundry and things, because you want to, get any, bacteria, urine, feces out of there for sure. But the other thing is, when you're talking about like the bowel movements and such, and being able to position and posture, that takes a tremendous amount of strength.
It really does.
And so many pet owners have told me, I think my dog's becoming incontinent. And it's not that they're necessarily incontinent. They may be aware, but they only eliminate part of it. And then they come in, they relax, they still have to go, and then they'll have a quote accident. And, it's not their fault, but if they were able to maintain that position for a while longer with your help, then, they could be more comfortable and fully void. So
maybe they could have a full elimination. And you're right. And then sometimes you get panicky because you're like, well, I just took them outside, and, and then they come back inside and they go. And you're right. It may not necessarily be an incontinence issue. It may very well be that, that they can't sustain that position because it takes a while. They have to hold that until they completely eliminate. And a lot of my patients, a lot of our neuro patients can't, a lot of our senior patients can't, patients with osteoarthritis. So that was a good point.
Absolutely. So I was just going to mention, I don't know if you ever used this, but back in the day when I was seeing a lot of neurology cases, specifically those little dachshunds, you know, the short-legged, long-backed dogs, I was working at a facility that didn't have harnesses and slings and things like that. So I had to be creative. You know, again, necessity's the mother of invention. And I looked at some of these well-made products like the Walkabout at the time, and they had this X in the center that supported the pelvis. And I'm like, okay, so if you take away, you know, the fluff of the padding and such, what is the meat of this? And basically it was this webbing, this strapping. So I would grab the stockinette that we had in the hospital and make a big loop, fold it over so that it was a figure 8, and put that X, that middle where it crossed, right under their pelvis. And again, it was adjustable per the height of the owner. And yeah, so it looped around, you know, each leg, and the owner could help their dachshund, their corgi, you know, or the breeds that we saw most often, either without surgery or definitely post-surgery, to help them get around, go out, go to the bathroom and so forth. And they could urinate in it and defecate in it. And yeah, it was a nice little temporary solution. So I call that my figure 8 sling.
That's your figure 8 harness. Brilliant, Chris. Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'm all harnessed out. I don't think I have any more harness topics here.
I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. And I think, again, for owners, just to consider that this is just another tool for them in their dog's bag. If you have a dog with osteoarthritis, a dog with hip dysplasia, a dog with an amputation, you need that little bit of help. But you also need to take care of yourself. You're the whole system. If you're giving your dog, if your dog is in need of mobility support, then you got to take care of yourself as well, because they need you. So I can't make a better argument for taking care of yourself than you need to take care of your dog, right?
Yeah,
take care of yourself.
Exactly.
So keep those in mind, like Chris and I talked about with the body mechanics of owners as well. Okay.
All right. Chris
Thanks,
out.
Chris.
All
Good
right.
to see you. Bye.
Hey, Cathy. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our show. Follow us on Facebook or on Instagram at PetAbility Podcast.
For more information about Cathy's books and living with blind dogs, please go to enableyourpet.com. Thank you, and please tune in next time.